Well, authorities have been grappling with the issue of extortion aimed at businesses and individuals around the Lower Mainland. The Surrey Police Service says they have 101 extortion files now from this year alone. And police say there have been 44 extortion related shootings in Surrey this past year. Now, that is something that our next guest has been paying a lot of attention to. Elenore Sturko is an independent MLA for Surrey-Cloverdale and a former RCMP officer who is based in Surrey. She joins us on the line this morning. Good morning to you, Elenore.
Good morning to you, Stephen.
Last week, when we held our town hall in Surrey, you were certainly one of the people in the front row there, very interested in what was going on. Now we've got more than 100 extortion cases being followed. What do you think about what's been going on?
I think this is an absolute travesty, really, that we have this massive public safety emergency, in my opinion. And, really the response that we've seen from the province and even the federal government, I think, has been lacking. And what was really disturbing to me, and a question that I would have liked to ask that night, was that how can it be that we have people who are being targeted more than once, and in fact, sometimes targeted multiple times, including multiple shootings? The response really has come far too late. It is obviously better to have something now than never, but I think it comes as a little comfort to members of the community. And I'm sure that you felt that as well, frustration in the crowd.
Certainly did last Thursday night. And it was interesting to see that, our town hall had been planned for some time and widely advertised. And on that morning was when the RCMP decided to issue a press release to talk about how it was putting a surge, they said, of resources into the files.
Yes, what a coincidence. I think the government's been under a lot of pressure to show that they're being responsive, but I found that press release is actually quite vague. It has a lot of names of units. Many of those units work on on-call basis in the city already, like police dog services. Their duty is to respond if there's a shooting and they have a dog that's able to track down shell casings, or if they want to do a track of any people that were walking in the area at the time. That's how it already works. And frankly, I'm disappointed that we haven't received a number of what an actual surge of members to Surrey would look like. And I get it, Stephen, that there's operational security requirements that say that we're not going to tell you exactly how many people we have on the street as police at any given time. But given the fact that they, told the public quite readily and quite heartily that we have 40 members of the task force, 15 of those come from CFSEU and a number of analysts,
Yeah.
I think that there's no harm in telling us overall, how many people you're dedicating to this. Where did they come from? Are these individuals we're bringing in overtime? And I guess more importantly, if we have this giant surge of members, why is it my constituents don't see any increased police presence?
I guess something else that I gleaned from the town hall, and I stand to be corrected on this, but it seemed to me that the police reaction so far has been largely that, a reaction. It has been investigating after the fact, after shots have been fired or a fire has been lit or something else. How can police get on top of this in a way that actually prevents these occurrences?
Part of it is intelligence gathering, and I was glad to hear Chief Lipinski talk about an intelligence-led investigation, and so did Assistant Commissioner Brewer. But the reality is that it's easier when you have more people on the ground. It's easier to gather intelligence when you have people who are doing proactive patrols in the area. And if you think back, Stephen, to some of our more larger upticks in gang activity we had. You might think back to, for example, the YVR shooting that year. We had a shooting in front of a Toys R Us, and I was still policing at that time, and we had lots of proactive patrols. In fact, I believe that we had received grants and funding from the government at that time so that we could actually have more patrols going out, doing more vehicle interdictions. And when you consider the fact that, yes, 44 shootings in Surrey so far linked to extortions, but we've actually had many more than that. We've actually statistically got more than 100% increase in shootings in Surrey year to date. And more than the average of one a week shooting in Surrey right now. So that means that, you have this large increase, you need to have people on the street doing vehicle interdictions. We have people obviously driving around with guns and cars, and we need to find those people.
Now, the press release that was released last week talks about the removal of 3 individuals from Canada by CBSA, the Canada Border Services Agency, and another 78, I believe, being investigated. But we don't know who those 3 people who were removed were, and we don't know the reason for their removal. How transparent have authorities been about this?
Well, I think they haven't been transparent enough. So that original release came out November 7th with
That's
great
right.
pomp and circumstance, with the Solicitor General doing a press conference. And, they talk about these, removals from Canada in the context of having a team available to work on extortions, but they don't cite any cases of extortion. They don't tell us what file, what jurisdiction, when, if these people are associated to extortion, when this extortion file was reported, or any details of it. In fact, members of the public at your forum actually tipped me off that they had heard these individuals actually were just had expired visas, and they already had warrants of removal to be removed from Canada, but not associated to any extortion files. And look, if that's the case, I think that there needs to be transparency. Don't try to fool the public into thinking that you're getting results that you may not be, because you're going to lose people's trust, which is actually fundamental when you're trying to get information from people who are under threat. It's incredibly important. So, the reality too is that you heard at your forum that people want to know the names. If these people are chargeable suspects, chargeable in extortion files, charge them.
Yeah.
Then you can release the name under the Privacy Act. You could still deport them on their expired visa, but you'd also be making extra sure that they're not coming back to Canada as well. So, if these people truly are related to extortions and you have information that would allow them to be charged, let's do it. Let's release the names then lawfully. We would be able to do that. And it doesn't mean that we wouldn't still be able to deport them.
Briefly, because we're just about out of time, Elenore, there's been a big emphasis that these extortions and threats are targeting businesses and individuals largely in the South Asian community in Surrey and Abbotsford. What effect do you think that has on how the general public is perceiving these threats?
Yeah, I think it's a shame that we do that. And this is a political move, in my opinion, on the parts of those that want to avoid the scrutiny of the public. There's no better way to have certain groups of people sort of turning a blind eye to what's happening than when they feel like it doesn't affect them. But the reality is whether you're South Asian or not, having this many shootings taking place, having businesses targeted, we've already had 2 bystanders, who were harmed in shootings. And it is incredibly dangerous for us to have people riding around in cars and wildly, just these videos are wild, of people just shooting so recklessly into homes and businesses.
Yeah.
This is a crime that affects us all. It's not only the South Asian community. We need to come together to make sure that our city and our province get the resources that they need.
Elenore, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for including me.
That is Elenore Sturko, an independent MLA for Surrey-Cloverdale and a former RCMP officer based in Surrey.